Welcome back. You're watching Tok Didiman. In this part of the program, we will be discussing the black soldier fly as a potential technology for feed production and, of course, waste management option in PNG. So joining me now in this segment, I am happy to have Dr. Michael Dom from the PNG National Agricultural Research Institute, Dr. Anna Manag from the Australian International Research Institute, and all the way from Kenya we have Dr. Tanga. Thank you, doctors, for joining me. Dr. Dom, we'll start with you. If you can briefly introduce yourself and tell us what you do at the National Agriculture Research Institute here in PNG.
Okay, so I'm Michael Dom. I am a principal scientist for NARI, based at the Momase Regional Center in Leh. And my core research is in pig nutrition and production, but I also dabble in poultry and fish research as the team leader for the research group there currently. So my interest in black soldier fly larvae started when I discovered some of the larvae growing, not some actually, a whole mass of larvae growing inside some feed that I was researching a long time ago, back in 2009. And so the feed I was working with, which became part of my PhD work, was fermented sweet potato cassava and fermented sweet potato and cassava. And so I had many buckets, 90-liter bins of silage stored away, and one of the buckets had been neglected for some time. And when I went to look for it, I found that it wasn't rotting at all. It was actually still in good condition. But a few weeks later, because we'd opened the bucket, somehow the flies had managed to lay eggs in there, and they were clearly from a local population. So later on, when I opened the bucket to see what was happening, I found the mass of larvae just thriving in there. And because it's fermented cassava, it was at a very low pH. It's acidity level of 4. So the pH level was 4, at which most insects won't survive at that kind of pH. So I was really surprised to see that. And there were so many larvae that I thought, okay, this is something that's potentially very useful to us. But what I could use it for, I wasn't quite sure. And I said, okay, it may be useful as a feed resource. So that was what initially started my interest in the black soldier fly. Yeah.
Dr. Okello, if you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do at ACR.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Anna Manag, and I manage the Livestock Systems Research Program for an agency called the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research. So we fund a lot of agricultural R&D projects around the world. We're a statutory agency of the Australian government, but focused on agricultural research. So I manage the Livestock Systems Program.
Thank you, Dr. Okello. We'll have Dr. Tanga. If you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do at ECPE.
Thank you so much. I'm Santos Tanga. I'm agricultural entomologist working with the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm also head of Insect for Food, Feed and Other Uses program. And within this program, we are promoting insect farming for food, for feed, for forest fertilizer, for fuel and biotherapeutics. And within our program, we are open in terms of capacity building and training masters, PhD, postdoctoral fellows, and also training from national government authorities. We also do training of farmers on how to farm this insect and provide much needed protein for animal feed. And the greatest advantage of some of these insects, like the black soldier fly, it's the ability to strive in organic waste and transforming it through a circular economy and One Health concept into valuable product that can be translated into business opportunities for our youth and women, not only in Africa, but across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tanga. Dr. Dom, we'll come back to you. I understand that you are currently leading a 6 million sustainable livestock project, and it will run from 2022 to 2026. And also, I understand that NARI is currently doing a research work around the black soldier fly.
Yep.
So if you don't mind, if you can tell us more about the research work that NARI is currently carrying out.
Sure. Yeah. So initially, when I discovered the BSFL, as I said, in the sweet potato silage, the first thing that came to mind was it's definitely a chicken feed. It's a grub, a larvae, nothing at all like fly maggots. Once you see it, you'll know what it looks like. It resembles more. It's like a miniaturized sago grub. I think most Papua New Guineans are familiar with sago grub, so it's got ridges and it feeds on organic debris the same way, but not with all the associated disease that we think about when we see maggots. So there's that side, but it's still useful as a feed for poultry, because you can just offer it to them live, and that's straightforward. Then in 2019, I was working with the team in MRC to create a project that we wanted to bring village chickens back into, really improve management systems, because around about that year, I think earlier on in 2017, there was a report on the status of malnutrition, national challenge with malnutrition. I think one of the proponents of those reports, I think was, I shouldn't get this wrong, I think it was Care International and Childcare. I think they had, our Child Fund rather, had sponsored a research into malnutrition and associated death in infants below the age of 5 and mothers. So we have some very bad statistics in that, and so it's also been part of the government agenda and government policy for some time. So a question was posed by the Minister of Agriculture at the time: what can NARI livestock do about this challenge we have? Because the biggest challenge identified was lack of protein, so it was poor protein nutrition, which was a major challenge. So the solution to livestock researchers seemed quite simple. We want to increase the farming of poultry so that people in rural areas have access to better quality protein.
Because it is something that's available.
Exactly. Yeah, people are already keeping, I'd say, from a livestock worker's perspective, you're just keeping chickens. You're not really farming them, right? They live around the household area and maybe benefit from the kitchen the same way your children might do. So they're not exactly produced in large enough quantities. And I think one of the clearest pictures of that is that most people don't eat village chicken eggs, or haven't found them anyway, even though they have chickens. So that's a challenge. So our project idea was really simple. We want to improve village chicken farming to increase meat and egg availability. So there's two for the price of one. So if you can look after one animal properly, you get both the meat and eggs. But of course, the challenge, the other side of that problem was, how are you going to feed the chickens in the first place to get them to improve their productivity, and then to justify the management that you're going to improve? Because if you have birds housed, you have to provide the feed yourself. Whereas in the village, it's too easy. You just have the birds and they eat from the kitchen or find their own feed. But it just came together very well for us. Fortunately, I should say, we had our eyes open. We were looking at what our options were, and when we found the BSFL, everything fell together very well for us. And I should say, I think we received the funding very, very quickly from the Department of National Planning and Monitoring. I think it was quite record time actually for us, and quite surprising for us. 3 months after we submitted the proposal, they just snapped up the idea. And so there's really great government support for it, which is something that I think is valuable to know.
So, Dr. Okello, I understand ACR is also supporting this research work. If you don't mind, if you can tell us a bit more on how ACR is supporting this research work.
Yeah, thank you so much. So ACR, we fund lots of projects in different parts of the world. We have been funding the insect-based insects for livestock feed work research since 2015 over in Kenya. We have expanded in recent years with our projects that we're funding bilaterally with the CPE into Uganda and Rwanda as well. So I guess we've been watching this research. I've been working at ACR for 7 years now, working with Dr. Tanga and his team, and I've really been watching the progress of the research. I'm a veterinarian. Of course, we know the two big things that you need for healthy livestock systems is good animal health and feed. And so, we're always keeping an eye out for new technologies or proven research that has an application in different parts of the world that ACR works in. So I have quite a few projects here in the Pacific. We have quite a few projects in Africa, and watching the research coming out of a CPE, watching the connection between not just the research. Of course, we need really solid research, but we need to be able to put that research into real life, not keep it in books. It has to get to entrepreneurs, it has to get to government policy, and I think with this insect research, it's a really good example of how private sector development, entrepreneurs, and the national standards and regulatory bodies have kept up with the research coming out. So I've been watching this for the last 7 years and thinking, many of the challenges that people face in Kenya, they're also here in the Pacific. Huge costs for livestock feed importation, the huge role that livestock play for animal source foods, animal source protein, so the link into food security, but also, the value of livestock as a resource, not just for export, of course that's valuable, but, the social and cultural values of livestock is very similar between, parts of Africa that we work in here in the Pacific as well. So I've been thinking, maybe some things that are happening over in Africa is interesting in this insect-based research, maybe interesting to the Pacific. So the thing behind why we're all here in Papua New Guinea this week is because in April ACR funded a delegation from Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu and Fiji to go across. I said, let me have a look and see if people here are interested, and if you're interested, I'll take you across to Kenya and you can see with your own eyes what people are doing over there. And so by all accounts, Dr. Dom was on the team. You guys met in Kenya, and people were excited when they saw this stuff happening with their own eyes. And so this part is, my idea was for a reciprocal knowledge exchange visit. Now that we have brought our Kenyan or international African scientists back into the Pacific, and the idea is if everyone is still interested and excited and we think this technology has something to offer in the Pacific, let's design a project with the governments of Papua New Guinea and see where we can take the technology. Keeping, of course, research is at the centre. There's still a lot of things that, applying this technology to the context here we need to think about, but at the same time, the capacity for waste management, for example, job development, youth entrepreneurs. We're seeing all this stuff happening in Africa, and we're all quite excited that there's some really great lessons to be learned across this part of the world as well.
Thank you, Dr. Okello, for sharing, the purpose of this knowledge exchange visit to PNG. We'll move on to Dr. Tanga. Dr. Tanga, I understand a couple of days ago you guys visited a couple of sites in Lae province, and yes, from Kenya. What is it that you identified in the visit so far in Lae that you see that needs more improvement, and what knowledge you have from Kenya that can be adapted and used in PNG?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think once again I express our gratitude to ACR for giving us the opportunity to support research in insect for feed. I think this has opened a floodgate of opportunities because we've developed a technology that's actually focused on insects for feed, but then we've got a spectrum of so many other opportunities that come from the same value chain. As you said, we now have the first fertilizer. Beside the feed, we now have the oils which are used for animal as energy source in animal feed. We then have other aspects as functional feed that could be provided for animals and improve their health besides the good performance. I think our trip to most of the areas in PNG has been very, very instrumental in terms of assessing the feasibility and the climatic conditions that are related to high performance of these insects and the availability of the waste streams that could be used for producing these insects. And we were actually amazed by the massive amount of waste that is produced in PNG, and that ends up in the landfill. And besides that, we also have the markets and hotels and household waste, which are all being dumped. And so we think it's a great opportunity for using this insect to recycle this waste and to transform waste into a resource and to create job opportunities in the country. I think we discovered that PNG produces more than 5,000 tons of waste, and this can translate to massive amounts of protein source, as estimated by one of our private sector partners, that could feed close to 2 million chicken in Fiji. That's close to 80% of the protein need in the country. But the most important part of it is a massive amount of job creation, and that this can bring. And that's why I said we really have to give appreciation to ACR, because we're looking in one direction. They now open a massive gate of job opportunities for youth and women in the country. And we've seen that they can create jobs from different areas, from waste management, in terms of waste transporting, processing, and also the aspect of the process of the insect, feeding of the animals, and also training the people from the universities, master students, PhD students, and also extension officers. So it's an opportunity that's going to touch at all age group and of all different areas of life. And so we think this trip has actually been an eye-opener, because the insect is endemic in the country. We are no longer looking at biosecurity issues that might could have been a barrier. And the most important part here is we have met the national government authorities, and we've seen a lot of good reception and acceptability of this technology, given the massive demand of the protein needs in the country. And also, what also surprised us is the massive amount of money which is being spent in importing animal feed from the different countries, and prices are way much higher compared to even what we experience in Africa. So we think this bringing this technology in this country will really transform and improve and increase foreign exchange savings in the country. But most importantly, and what we are actually looking forward to get a lot of support from the government, is the policy makers coming on board to be able to create enabling environments that will allow this technology to transform into business opportunities for our youth and women, and also the impact that it has on in terms of climate change, as well as because of the Pacific. Most of the country actually face a lot of climate change issues. I would think removing this waste from the landfills would be a game changer, not only in PNG, but in all the countries around the Pacific. But they might learn from other parts, from the various countries that will be involved in this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tanga. We'll go back to Dr. Dom. I understand you visited Kenya last year. Would you be able to share with us your experience there, especially what you learned on black soldier fly there?
Okay. Well, thank you for asking the question and for this opportunity. First of all, I think the trip, which was supported by ACR, entirely supported by ACR, I think we're very grateful for that opportunity. It was a chance meeting, but also we're prepared for it, because I think we have had NARI has had then a great relationship with ACR over the years, and I think most of the government agencies have, at least in the agriculture sector. And I don't think anyone really denies that we've got good partnerships. We've got a history of good partnerships, and like all partnerships, we may have our differences, but we keep working together, and that's just what happened here. We carried on a good tradition, so thank you very much for that. The trip to Kenya was, I thought I'd seen it all when I opened up the bucket, the 90-liter bin of what I thought was silage, and found black soldier fly larvae just bubbling in there. But what I'd seen in Kenya has just taken my impression to a completely other level. I'd seen pictures and YouTube video clips of examples of production of BSFL, but being there and actually visiting the sites and and talking to the people responsible for the production and how the whole value chain operated. I think that was incredibly powerful, and it's totally convinced myself and my two colleagues who traveled with me. There's Arthur Roberts, who's a aquaculture specialist in our livestock team, and there was Fred Bizari, who's a poultry specialist now. Fred is based in Karavat, and Arthur's with me at in Leh at the MRC. So they've both been working already with the larvae, and we've been producing small quantities and trialing that. Arthur with the fish, and of course Fred with our broiler birds in particular. So we got working with it, and we had some challenges, but after visiting the ACPA team, it had completely changed the way we viewed what we were doing. And we did understand that, okay, we're operating at a really small scale, but there is a means of increasing our production and productivity. So that's what we wanted to find out more about. And talking in particular with Faith Nyamu, have I got the name correct? Faith Nyamu, who's a research scientist at Duduville, which is the campus in Nairobi for ACPA. She's in charge of all things insect on the station, basically. So speaking with her and seeing how manageable it was, and there's a lot of science and technology behind it, but these are things that people can actually do, and you have management processes that allow you to produce. So what we've seen in Kenya has convinced us that it's definitely a technology that is directly applicable in PNG, and I think the different scales at which it can go from. I produce the larvae from my kitchen waste, so I know that's possible. We've got another scale up, which is what we do on station for our research purposes to produce feed, and we've seen in Kenya that they do mass production of tons and tons, and so there's that range which, as Dr. Tanga has pointed out, it just adds value to your entire the economic system you've got in your agro industry. So that's a fantastic challenge. It's an opportunity, but also a challenge, and I'm really grateful again to ACR for being willing to partner with us down this pathway. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dom, Dr. Dr. Okello and Dr. Tanga for your time with us. I think the time is not on our side now, so we'll end our discussion here, and we'll be more than happy to join you for the Laloki visit and of course Kira Kira. And Dr. Okello and Dr. Tanga, we wish you a safe stay in PNG and safe flights back to your countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And yes, that was our discussion on the black soldier fly as a potential technology for feed production and organic waste management in PNG.